90% of men today will develop an enlarged prostate by 85. Half already have one by 60. Yet when researchers combed through mid-century medical records, severe cases barely registered. Something was different about those men, and it wasn't genetics. Every autumn in post-war kitchens across America, families scooped and roasted a common seasonal food that delivered one of the highest natural concentrations of a mineral the prostate needs more than any other organ in the body. Once a week was all it took. Then, almost overnight, the habit vanished. In the years after World War II, the medical journals stacked on a small-town doctor's desk rarely mentioned severe prostate trouble among older men. Urologists kept careful case logs, yet autopsy reports from the era, published in the likes of JAMA and the New England Journal, showed that deaths attributed to an enlarged prostate were almost vanishingly rare. When the Baltimore Longitudinal Study of Aging began tracking men's health in 1958, the records told a quiet story. Most men entered their 60s without the kind of nightly urgency or bathroom struggles that fill modern waiting rooms. The language of those old charts feels almost gentle. Notes about occasional nocturia or mild hesitancy, seldom rising to the level of surgical concern. The diagnostic tools of the time were simple, just a doctor's hands, a few pointed questions, and the patient's willingness to speak up. There were no prostate-specific antigen blood tests, no ultrasounds humming in the background. Many men simply lived with mild symptoms or never noticed them at all. Autopsy series from the 1940s through the early 1960s, examining thousands of prostates, found that unless a man had died with obvious obstruction, his gland often went unremarked. The big medical textbooks of the day described prostate enlargement as a slow, almost inevitable process, but one that rarely caused the kind of suffering we hear about now. Researchers looking back at these records sometimes wonder what protected those men. The data is sparse, but the pattern is clear. Severe cases of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, just did not dominate the clinical conversation. Even the best-known studies, like the early years of the Baltimore Longitudinal Study, found only a modest number of men with significant symptoms. In a time before advanced imaging, doctors relied on what they could feel and what their patients told them. That left a wide margin for mild cases to slip by unnoticed. But it also suggests that truly serious prostate trouble was less common than today. This was an era when the kitchen table doubled as the family pharmacy, and when the rhythms of the harvest shaped what people ate and how they felt. The question lingers: was there something in those ordinary routines, some overlooked habit or food, that quietly kept prostate problems at bay? The answer, if it exists, is tucked inside the everyday details of post-war life. The lunch pails, the garden rows, and the snacks that disappeared as America's food culture changed. These days, the waiting room at any urology clinic tells a different story. The numbers are hard to ignore. According to the Cleveland Clinic, by the time a man turns 60, there is a coin flip chance he is already living with an enlarged prostate. By 85, 9 out of 10 men have it. The curve climbs so steeply with age that it almost feels like a rite of passage, not an exception. The most common complaints: nighttime trips to the bathroom, that slow trickle, the nagging sense of never quite being finished, are not whispered anymore. They are spoken openly, compared like battle scars, and rarely met with surprise. Doctors now have a full arsenal of tools: PSA blood tests, ultrasounds, symptom questionnaires with boxes to tick. There is a name for everything and a prescription for nearly every symptom. But the sheer scale of the problem is what stands out. Half of men over 60 have it, and 90% do by 85. These are not just statistics. They are the backdrop to modern aging. Clinics track the rise, researchers publish fresh numbers each year, and pharmacies line their shelves with bottles promising relief. The question lingers in the air, heavier with every new diagnosis. How did something that once seemed so rare become so routine? Is it only because we are living longer, or is there something else at play? Some quiet change in how we eat, move, and live? The old kitchen rituals, the garden harvests, the simple snacks tucked into a lunchbox, these details have faded, replaced by habits as different as the foods on our plates. The numbers do not offer comfort, they sharpen the mystery. If aging alone cannot explain the surge, what else has changed? Somewhere in the gap between a grandfather's kitchen and today's clinic, a clue waits to be found. An autumn afternoon in the 1950s often ended with the scent of roasting seeds drifting from kitchen windows. In towns across the Midwest and Appalachia, families gathered around enamel pans, separating pumpkin seeds from orange pulp, rinsing them in colanders, then spreading them on towels to dry. The ritual did not belong to any one household. Grandmothers salted and stirred the seeds by hand, daughters learned the timing of the oven, and sons waited for the first batch to cool enough to share. Oral histories from the Appalachian Oral History Project recall these scenes as a kind of seasonal punctuation, a pause in the rush of harvest, when neighbors swapped seed packets and children carried handfuls in waxed paper twists to school. Lunch pails rattled with roasted seeds tucked beside sandwiches. In coal towns and factory cities, a packet of pumpkin seeds was as ordinary as an apple or a slice of bread. Regional newsletters and union bulletins mention these snacks as a staple, cheap, filling, and easy to pack. School cafeterias sometimes offered roasted seeds as a side, especially in districts where home gardens still flourished. Ladies' Home Journal and other magazines printed simple recipes for dry roasting, sometimes with a dusting of cinnamon or a pinch of sugar, but always with the same basic method. Nothing wasted, every seed used. Community fairs and church socials brought another layer to the story. In West Virginia, families bagged roasted seeds to sell at autumn festivals, the proceeds helping with winter groceries or school supplies. Home economics teachers taught seed roasting as a practical lesson, passing down the skill alongside bread baking and canning. For many, the taste of pumpkin seeds meant more than nutrition. It was a reminder of thrift, of hands working together, of a time when food was tied to the land and the season. These rituals faded slowly, edged out by the arrival of convenience foods and changing routines. But for a generation, the weekly habit of roasting and eating pumpkin seeds was woven into the rhythm of American life, quietly delivering a handful of nutrients in the most familiar way possible. The snack they ate every autumn was hiding in plain sight, linking kitchen tables and lunchrooms across the country. A bowl of roasted pumpkin seeds on the kitchen table once meant more than just a snack. In the 1950s, this simple dish carried a quiet nutritional punch that most families never thought twice about. The United States Department of Agriculture now lists a single cup of roasted pumpkin seed kernels at 9.02 milligrams of zinc, a number that stands out when you realize the recommended daily allowance for men is 11 milligrams. Even a handful, scooped up during a Sunday card game or packed into a metal lunch pail, delivered a meaningful dose. The rhythm of the week often revolved around these small rituals. Seeds left over from the autumn harvest would be rinsed and dried, then roasted in batches large enough to last the family through the week. By Sunday afternoon, a fresh bowl would appear on the kitchen counter, drawing hands of all ages. No one counted milligrams or tracked nutrients. The habit itself did the work, quietly topping up zinc stores with every bite. This wasn't just a rural tradition. In factory towns and city neighborhoods, the same bowl of seeds might sit beside the radio or the Sunday paper. The repetition mattered. Eating pumpkin seeds once a week wasn't about following a health trend. It was about using what the garden gave and making sure nothing went to waste. Over time, these small, steady doses of zinc added up. Modern nutrition science now recognizes what those kitchen tables practiced by accident. Zinc plays a special role in prostate health, with the prostate concentrating more zinc than any other soft tissue in the body. The USDA Nutrient Database confirms the high zinc content of pumpkin seeds, far outpacing most other snacks. Potato chips, candy, and processed foods, the snacks that would later fill pantries, offer almost nothing in comparison. The Sunday bowl, then, was more than a seasonal treat. It was a quiet safeguard woven into the fabric of weekly life. Each handful bridged the gap between the garden and the body, delivering a mineral that, decades later, researchers would link to healthy aging. The kitchen table served as both gathering place and an unspoken pharmacy, its rituals leaving a trace that modern science is only beginning to understand. The prostate is often described as the body's zinc vault. Urologists have measured zinc concentrations here that far exceed those found in the liver or kidneys, sometimes tenfold. This unusual accumulation puzzled scientists for decades until research clarified its role. Dr. Alan Costello's review in the Journal of Nutrition described how zinc shapes the gland's metabolism. In healthy tissue, zinc blocks certain metabolic steps, slowing cell growth and maintaining structure. When zinc levels drop, as seen in aging or prostate disorders, this control weakens. Cells multiply faster, the gland's architecture shifts, and symptoms begin to appear. Pumpkin seeds, once a staple in mid-century kitchens, quietly supplied this mineral. An ounce delivers 2 to 3 milligrams of zinc, and families who ate them weekly benefited from a steady intake. The habit was simple, the effect cumulative. Pumpkin seeds also contain beta-sitosterol, a plant sterol now found in many prostate supplements. Its effect is subtle, easing urinary flow and reducing swelling by altering how cholesterol is processed in the gland. Alongside this, cucurbitacins, bitter compounds unique to the squash family, have drawn scientific interest. Early lab studies suggest cucurbitacins may help calm inflammation and slow the signals that drive prostate growth. Though most evidence comes from animal models. A urologist, sleeves rolled, reflects diet matters, but it is the small, repeated habits that add up. Nearby, a nutrition scientist gestures to a tray of seeds and says, "Pumpkin seeds are rare, rich in zinc, phytosterols, and cucurbitacins. Together, they make a strong case for old kitchen rituals." Clinical trials are beginning to support this wisdom. In 2014, a randomized controlled trial compared pumpkin seed oil to a common prescription drug for prostate symptoms. Men taking the oil saw improvements in urinary flow and comfort, though not as rapidly as those on medication. The European Medicines Agency now lists pumpkin seed extract as an accepted herbal remedy for mild prostate complaints, citing its safety and gentle effect. The science, in the end, echoes what tradition once knew. A handful of seeds, eaten week after week, delivers nutrients and plant compounds tuned to the needs of an aging body. Zinc, phytosterols, cucurbitacins, these are the quiet agents at work. By the mid-1950s, the American kitchen was changing faster than anyone could have guessed. The sound of seeds rattling in lunch pails faded as a new kind of meal swept across the country. Swanson's TV dinner, launched in 1954, sold over 10 million units in its very first year, a number that seemed almost impossible at the time. The frozen tray, with its neat compartments and promise of no dishes to wash, became a symbol of modern convenience. Homemakers, once the keepers of scratch-cooked meals and garden harvests, found themselves courted by glossy ads promising more time, less mess, and a taste of the future with every foil-wrapped entree. As TV dinners filled freezers, the old rhythms of food preparation began to slip away. Vegetable gardens shrank. A USDA extension bulletin from the early 1960s reported that nearly 1/3 of American families had stopped tending home gardens, choosing instead to buy their vegetables canned, frozen, or pre-cut. The kitchen, once a workshop for roasting seeds and slicing homegrown squash, shifted toward reheating and unwrapping. Snacks changed too. Where a bowl of pumpkin seeds once waited on the counter, potato chips and candy bars took their place. The new snacks were easy to grab, but they offered little in the way of minerals like zinc. This slow drift had consequences that only became clear with time. The National Health and Nutrition Examination surveys show that nearly 28% of older Americans now have low zinc levels, a silent deficiency that rarely makes headlines but quietly shapes health. In Europe, the figure is even higher for those over 60. The very mineral that once arrived in a handful of roasted seeds, week after week, became harder to find in the modern diet. Processed snacks and convenience foods filled stomachs, but left a gap in the trace elements that the body, and especially the prostate, quietly depended on. The story is written in numbers and in memories. 10 million TV dinners in a single year, 1/3 fewer gardens by the end of the decade, a bowl of seeds replaced by a crinkled bag of chips. Somewhere in the rush toward convenience, the protective rituals of the past faded. The family kitchen, once a quiet pharmacy, lost a little of its old magic, but the clues remain, tucked inside those lost routines, waiting for anyone curious enough to look back and wonder what was left behind. Number 17, meatloaf with tomato glaze and green beans. Sunday afternoons once brought a quiet sense of order, a bowl of roasted pumpkin seeds, apples in a chipped ceramic dish, a slice of cheddar cut thick. This weekly ritual, simple and reliable, served as a kind of insurance, keeping zinc levels steady and connecting families to the season's rhythm. Even when gardens were far away or autumn's bounty had faded, the habit endured. Seeds could be bought at the corner store or measured from a bulk bin. The point was never perfection but repetition, a small act that quietly supported health. Today, the same benefit is possible, even if the kitchen has changed. In Austria's Styrian region, pumpkin seeds are pressed into a deep green oil, valued for its nutty taste and high phytosterol content. Recent clinical trials with Styrian oil have shown gentle improvements in urinary comfort for men with mild symptoms without the side effects of many prescriptions. For those who prefer convenience, capsules made from this oil now line pharmacy shelves, each delivering a consistent dose of the same plant compounds once found in those Sunday bowls. This offers a practical alternative for anyone who does not care for the taste or texture of seeds, bridging old habits and new routines. But the lesson from the 1950s kitchen goes beyond pumpkin seeds. Zinc is absorbed best alongside vitamin C, a bit of folk wisdom reflected in pairing seeds with an apple or orange. Even a spoonful of apple cider vinegar, as recommended in Dr. D.C. Jarvis's Folk Medicine, was believed to help with mineral uptake, a practice that lingered in farm kitchens long after the science faded. These combinations, seeds with fruit, oil on salad, vinegar before supper, work on the same principle, small, repeated acts that quietly nourish the body. Other foods from that era, fresh cabbage, onions, radishes, blackstrap molasses, rounded out the week, each bringing minerals and plant compounds. The guardrail was variety, not restriction. The Sunday bowl of seeds was just one thread in a larger fabric, woven from what the land and season offered. Restoring a weekly seed ritual is less about chasing cures and more about reclaiming a pattern, a low-barrier step that echoes old kitchen wisdom. Whether through roasted seeds, Styrian oil, or a capsule with breakfast, the invitation remains. Let routine shape health as it quietly did before. Today, most men reach for bottles and prescriptions, while the old lunch pail wisdom, those roasted seeds by the kitchen window, fades into memory. As prostate diagnoses soar and modern diets drift further from the garden, the question lingers: what else have we left behind in the rush to convenience? Sometimes the answer sits quietly in our own cupboards. Share your family's forgotten food rituals in the comments below.